This LI could also be another custom component. We could have more than one component in here. And this could be one of those. Or this could be, well, always the function that you pass to map, it doesn't have to be an anonymous arrow function. It could be a function that you named. So I could have some method up here called render acrobat that takes an acrobat as an argument and just returns an LI with that acrobat in it. Basically the same function. And then I could just say render acrobat here. This dot render acrobat. Same thing. Now, if we had our real JavaScript console open right now, we would see a warning. As I mentioned, if you do something like have a list and one of the items in the list changes, it's not going to redraw the whole list. It's only going to draw the one it changes. So it needs a way to identify them. So it actually always wants you to pass in, if you're looping over something, it wants each element to have a prop called key. And again, props are just like attributes. So it wants it to have a unique key. So what we could do, when you call map, it not only gives you each element in the array, it actually also gives you the index as a second argument. We've just never been using it. So it actually does pass in the index as a second argument. So I could set the key here to the variable I. And again, if you put quotes there, you're actually passing a string. If you put curly braces, you're passing a JavaScript expression. So in this case, I actually want to pass a variable in there, so I'm doing that. So again, that's just going to get rid of a warning for right now, but it wasn't showing us that in CodePen anyway. But it's a good habit to get into. Change the array, the whole thing changes. There it is. Questions about that? It's not a lot of code to do that thing. Once we get into events, then we have to get a little more complicated. Now that's just one component. Yeah.
Can you explain in the map parameter, like this the acrobat, like why should we, so how does it infer by itself that this is the acrobat and this is the index? So
say that one more time.
So how does the method this render acrobat know that this is the particular acrobat and this is the particular index?
So the way map works, whatever function you give it, it's going to pass two arguments into that. One, the current element from the array, because it's going to call it once for everything in the array, right? So the first element is always going to be an item from the array. And the second argument is always going to be I, basically. It's going to be the index in the array that you're currently at. Whether you write your function that way or not, it's going to pass in those two arguments, just like it always passes in the event when you're doing an event handler. So whatever function is passed to map is always going to get those two arguments. So we're just making sure that we write our method in a way that it's going to expect them. So that's just the way map works. Yeah. So key, anytime you're looping over things in React, it wants a key prop on that thing that you're putting in repeatedly to uniquely identify each item in the array-like thing, in the collection of LIs. It wants to uniquely identify each LI. So we're using I to do that. Now, we use curly braces instead of quotes because it's not a string. It's a JavaScript variable. So we have to use curly braces. So let's do something that's not in CodePen.